All right, let me play some PBD of the podcast before we get to more super chats, because this was a little interesting. I was pretty impressed with how Patrick pressed him on a lot of things. Here's a really good example. For example,
what do you
wait, not pressing him in the zoot sense, right?
that's true. Not pressing him in the zoot sense. Yes.
All right.
between the two communities, Muslim and Jews, which one concerns you more?
Jews, for sure.
Tell me why.
More powerful. They're more powerful.
So more powerful.
Hey, and isn't it interesting? It's like Jews, because think about this, guys, for everyone who doesn't know the numbers, okay? You got about 2 billion Muslims in the world, and a lot of them are peaceful. You have a lot of diversity and so on, but they do have allegiance to a prophet who calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world. So people are taking that seriously. There's still a lot of people. You have 2 billion people, and a fraction of them are taking Muhammad's command seriously. That's a lot of people still planning to violently subjugate the entire world. And so what possible basis could you have for saying Jews are more dangerous, Jews are a bigger threat? Well, they just have more power. And this is where the delusion comes in. It's like Jews control the media, Jews control all the governments, Jews control everything. It's like, really? Jews control social media, where you guys spend every waking moment whining about Jews, and Jews control the media, who spend every waking moment attacking Israel? It's like, let me put it this way. If Nick Fuentes is right and Jews are controlling all this, and they're using their immense power to turn as many people against themselves as possible, why would you think they're dangerous? They seem to be like idiotically incompetent. If they're using all this power that they wield, they control the governments, they control the politicians, they control the journalists, they control the educators, they control the entertainers, they control all of them, and they use all of this to turn everyone against them and to turn people into Hamas supporters. I was like, really? Those are the guys you're scared of?
So far, it's also pretty bad reasoning. I mean, because they're more powerful. Okay, so what?
Yes, it doesn't mean necessarily they're bad. They don't have a religion that literally says you violently subjugate the world. I mean, again, Islam divides everything into the house of Islam and the house of war. It is a religion committed to the subjugation and putting everything under Islam. This is what Sheikh Uthman was recently saying, that Islam is going to take over everything. Asim al-Hakim, I believe, as well, was saying it a little while ago, that Islam is eventually going to dominate. They're going to be powerful enough, and they're going to go to every house, every country, and say, you can either convert to Islam, become our dhimmis, or die and your women and children become slaves. I don't remember Jews going around saying the exact same thing. This doesn't make any sense. And if you look at the total global wealth of Muslims, it's around $11 trillion. The total global wealth of Jews around the world, $2 trillion. Now, it is impressive considering there are far less Jews than Muslims, but in terms of power, population, control of land, Muslims have a ton more. They also have a ton more access to oil, which is a wealth generator for a lot of these Muslim countries. So I'd like to see his actual numbers to state that Jews actually have more power. I don't think
it's also. I mean, he's referring to power in America at the moment. It is probably true that Jews have more power in America than Muslims do. However, Muslims have a rapidly growing number in America as opposed to Jews. So this influx of Muslims and the growth of Muslims will probably lead to Muslims taking more and more power and being eventually more powerful. And considering that their ideology is significantly more hostile and significantly more subversive, you should be worried about that more. I don't know, unless you have some really, really serious reasons to be concerned about Jews. And I'm pretty sure if we go on and ask him about the reasons why he is concerned about Jewish power, we will start hearing a bunch of idiotic conspiracy theories.
Well, also, if you look at like the top countries currently investing money to lobby the United States, China is at top, followed by Japan, then Liberia, South Korea, then Saudi Arabia, followed by the Marshall Islands, Qatar, UAE, Bahamas, and then Israel is number 10. I mean, there's a lot more Muslim countries on this list than Jewish ones, and they're higher up than Israel. So,
and it's you see the same thing with like contributions to colleges and stuff like this. It's overwhelmingly places like Qatar and so on. And yet, I mean, any random Israeli who hands $1 to anyone, it's, you see, this is the proof.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, like, a lot of the Arab countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar are investing heavily in pushing their goals, pushing their ideology, because they have a lot of oil money. So they're able to do that. That should be far more terrifying than anything coming out of Judaism. And again, I think a lot of the Jews that people complain about are more motivated by secular atheism than anything else. It's not like Orthodox Jews are the ones that these guys are always attacking. They tend to be secular atheists that just happen to be from a Jewish background. So I don't know if that necessarily follows even.
Powerful.
But we'll get back to this.
In a way, you're talking the fact that they have money, finance, Hollywood. Is that what you're
Yeah, they have more position in American society.
And how do you think they got that?
I think they got it because they are
By drinking the blood of Christian
a
babies.
transnational entity. You know, this is how the Rothschilds got started. Their superpower is that they live everywhere, and they have their Jewish identity supersedes their local identity. So
That's
a
not-
Jewish person in
That's
America,
not how they
or in-
started. That's not how the Rothschild family got wealthy. What literally happened with them is that they lived as a minority among themselves, usually isolated by will or by force in Western nations, where they were not even allowed to properly participate
Right.
in the general business and the general occupations that people had in their daily lives. They were not allowed to participate in the average jobs. They were not allowed to own lands in specific places. They were usually confined to their own areas and all that, to their own neighborhoods, to their own places. So they isolated themselves. They were therefore usually affected differently when countries experience difficulties. When, for example, they lived in Poland, and Poland had extensive periods of war, the Jewish population, because they were ostracized and because they were isolated, were not as impacted by the economic hardship as the rest of the population was. So they had the ability to accumulate wealth and to continue living as if there really was no war going on, which is what made it easier for them to accumulate more money. They worked together very nice, and they happened to be very conscientious people compared to the others that were more busy with religious wars and the daily lives and all that. So when they had the ability to establish a lot of wealth, it just so happened that they ended up, after war times, for example, to have significantly more wealth than the average population, which caused the average population to ask them for money, for example, which caused the Jews to establish financial businesses and say, okay, all right, we have money, here, you can have it, and you can pay us back in increments. That often ended up with the Jews being eventually kicked out or killed because those who borrowed money weren't able to pay it back anymore, and so on. But basically, that's how it usually happened.
And also, for the longest time, the Catholic Church outlawed usury, loaning with interest, so that was outlawed for Christians. But you know who could loan with interest? The Jews who lived in Europe. So who ended up taking over a lot of the banking systems because the Catholics specifically outlawed usury? Jews. And so they gained a lot of wealth that way, controlling a lot of the banking systems. When Protestants came onto the scene, they started to allow usury, but the Jews were already pretty far ahead. So you want to blame the wealth of the Jews on someone? It has a lot to do with what Catholic Europe was doing many centuries ago. It's not some sort of evil cabal at work behind the scenes. It was just a natural result of an entire area outlawing usury for many centuries.
Yep, we got breaking news on an unrelated topic here, but it's breaking news. Trump scores $24.5 million YouTube settlement over account suspension dispute.
Wow.
The President, Donald Trump, has won a $24.5 million settlement from YouTube over the platform's suspension of his account following the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. The Alphabet-owned company is the last of the three major social media platforms sued by Trump alongside Meta and Twitter, now called X, to resolve claims tied to his removal. According to a court filing obtained by Fox News Digital, $22 million of the settlement will be contributed on Trump's behalf to the Trust for the National Mall, a nonprofit supporting construction of a new White House state ballroom. So it's going into construction of a new White House ballroom. And if you're sitting there going, well, I don't care. Well, it's good when social media companies shut you down and someone sues them and wins, and that convinces them to maybe not ban you in the future. That's good.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Another thing to add to what you just said, IP, the Old Testament, aka the Hebrew Bible, the Jewish Bible, explicitly allows usury for. So it forbids usury for your brethren, to the Israelites in Deuteronomy, but explicitly allows usury for the Gentiles, which is Jewish law. So some people go around and say, "Oh, look, Jews are evil. They do this. They don't take usury from each other, but they take it from Gentiles." The same people proclaim to be Christians. I'm sorry, but this is directly from the Bible. It is directly in Deuteronomy. So if Jews go by the law of the Torah, it is allowed for them to take usury from Gentiles, but not from Jews. So it was convenient and also within their law and their moral system to do that.
You're only saying that because Mossad pays you. Obviously,
Exactly.
you inserted that into Deuteronomy using your time machine. After when Mossad gave you the bags of gold you got in Israel. Obviously,
Yes.
All right. Makes sense. Yes.
Yes.
Germany or in France or in the UK, they can all talk to each other and work together.
Do you
And
think that's a bad thing?
not in and of itself. It is detrimental for America, though.
Is it detrimental though? Because
Yes,
you
America's
know,
going to collapse because
I'm a
Jews.
Syrian, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And I wish Assyrians were more like this.
Mhm.
And let me tell you why I relate to them. We don't have a country. Assyrians used to have a country. We used to be the first warriors. We were written about in the Bible. You read it all over the place. You know, the history we had, the things we invented. And then we became a little cocky. And God came in and was like, listen, man, relax, Assyrians. You ain't going to come and be the king of the jungle. It's me. And you hear the stories about that they built the tower to go all the way to the top because we are Assyrians and, and then we failed. It's like, no, look at you now. No one knows who Assyrians are. You don't even have a country, right? We know the land in Iraq or wherever you are. You don't have it anymore. I think when a community becomes too cocky, the man upstairs is going to handle that himself, right? But in a sense, when you see they went from a small community to have this much influence, isn't that almost impossible for them to pull off? Like, isn't that? So it either produces one of two things. I'm not intimidated. I'm not a guy that is envious or jealous or, oh my God, that guy's richer than me. That guy's this guy's, I'm not.
Well,
I want
Nick
to see
is.
what they did and what
Nick and all his followers are exactly that. That's exactly what they are.
Mm-hmm.
To me, when I think about Jews, I think about Mormons, I think about Scientologists. I used to have an office where half the office was all Scientology, and I learned all these phrases, assist, or, I went to their church and so Dianetics and L. Ron Hubbard and what he would say when you get a headache, you do this and all these weird extras. I'm like, oh, interesting. How much money did we give? $200,000. Why'd you give that? But let me tell you, those guys that were in, they had each other's back. It was a fraternity that you wish family members were like this, right? I think Scientologists have it maybe more than Jews. So I think Jews will bite each other a little bit, not as much. And then Mormons have each other's back. Of course, there's a falling out as well where people come out and they'll talk about God makers or, what Gordon B. Hinckley, and I've read all of that stuff over the years.
I would say that Mormons have each other's back significantly more than Jews do.
Yeah.
Jews have a lot of friction.
But no one has someone's back like the El Zut had Muhammad's back.
That's
That's
true.
true.
What's wrong with them winning at the highest level?
Well, I agree with you that it's
because it makes
is
me feel like a
remarkable, and it is
pathetic
actually
dork.
ominous how much they've achieved. Here's the problem, though. America's an open society. The premise of this country is it's self-government, of, by, for the people. There's a egalitarian idea that we are all citizens, and our government is going to be comprised of the citizenry of America. That's deeply embedded in who we are and in our government and our whole system. And take me, for example, I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish. The Italians were very much like this when they immigrated to America. They had in Chicago what they called the outfit, which was the mafia, and they looked out for each other. And when my grandfather died on my mom's side, I believe my grandmother got a loan from the outfit. And they would come by every month or whatever, and they'd bring a fruit basket and they'd look after her, and they provided.
Hold on,
financially.
hold on,
Philanthropist
hold
group?
on,
You know the
hold
history?
on.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're getting to the bottom of things. The mafia controls Nick Fuentes.
Exactly.
The
Look at this.
mafia, we just heard it from his own. He just spelled it out for us.
Look at this tiny little boy, man.
His family owes a bunch of money to the mafia, and the mafia decided, hey, we got the Jews and we're in competition with them, and the Italians cannot be subordinate to the Jews, so we need you, Nick Fuentes, as part of this arrangement, since you still owe us the money that your grandma borrowed from us. You're going to spend every waking moment crying about Jews and pretending to luster after his 16-year-olds to throw people off the trail of what you're really after.
And look at this tiny little boy, man. Tiny little gay boy.
That's the only logical explanation, given this connection here. Using the typical Groyper logic, that must mean that he is controlled by the mafia. Yes, that's
Tiny little
logically
gay
followed.
boy.
History of it, or was it Tony?
I don't know who
Sparaccio?
it was specifically.
Okay, got it.
But so these are some of the stories I would hear growing up from my mom and my grandmother.
So think about at that time, how many people were against Italians? At that time, how many people didn't like Italians in New York? Because Bank of America was first called Bank of Italy. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So can you pull up, Rob? Was Bank of America first Bank of Italy? If I'm wrong, it is what it is. I think Bank of America was originally Bank of Italy, and everybody used to. Yes, the Bank of America was originally founded in Bank of Italy in 1904 to an Italian American in San Francisco, the financial needs of Italian immigrants and other underserved people. The bank eventually merged with another institution to form Bank of America and change.
Oh
the name
my
to Bank of
goodness,
America,
this is
right?
hey, hang on. Hey, is everyone catching this? So the Italians come in there with their mafia and they
Their
start
banks.
a bank, and then people are catching on. Wait a minute, this sounds like a mafia front. You're calling it Bank of Italy. Why don't you just call it Bank of Don Corleone while you're at it? They catch on, and then they rename it Bank of America to trick and dupe people.
To hide their Italianness.
And in order to throw people off even further, they force people like Nick Fuentes to blame the Jews for everything. So everyone's going, oh, it's the Jews who are controlling all this, when it's the mafia.
It's the Italians, really, that are behind all of this.
Freaking Italian.
It's all coming together now at this point, ladies and gentlemen. I just want you all to see who's really controlling America.
So hang on. So Nick Fuentes just mentioned that he's Italian, Irish, and Mexican. Did he just say that? So
Yes.
on the one hand, you have Italians who literally come and establish the banking system and also run the mafia and run so much dirt behind the scenes. On the other hand, part of him is Irish. Almost every single president has Irish ancestry. Irish people are full of a lot of places that are significant, that are important. A lot of financial companies, a lot of banks are actually owned and ran by Irish people in America. Many people don't know this. The Irish people are very, very powerful in America. So he has the Italian aspect and the Irish aspect, and now he has the infiltrating Mexican aspect.
Yep, the cartels.
And
the
he's
cartels.
perfectly covering this up by blaming the Jews.
And I also like to point out, we still haven't seen
God.
why they're scarier than the Muslim invasion or the Muslims' attempt to
I mean,
subjugate and
now
conquer
I'm
the world.
terrified. Now I'm terrified of the Groypers. Apparently, they're part of this cartel and mafia and potato-eating Irish person, all rolled up into one, trying to take over the U.S. and pointing a finger at the Jews, so we don't understand their plot.
Exactly.
And by the way, keep in mind, this is a guy who's actually obsessed with taking over the country and getting rid of Jews.
Yes.
So, think we're not on to you, Nick.
First, we're Italians. They would give small little loans, $10, $4, $5 to them. And some people were not supportive of that. They're like, what are Italian immigrants doing here? You guys are becoming too much power in New York. We're not happy about this. So there was some of that going on 100 years ago.
And that's what I'm saying is that did exist. And then what happened eventually is that Italians assimilated. Eventually, these groups, these ethnic advocacy groups, were broken up, if you could call the outfit that, or the mob of New York. and then Italians assimilated. And when I grew up, I saw myself as American. I didn't see myself as Italian American. I just saw myself as American. And I think that, you know, when you see Jewish people working together, I don't think there's anything wrong with that inherently. And I agree with you. It's like a superpower. It's actually admirable in some ways. They look out for each other. But if society becomes, American society in particular, a place where every group is ganging up, well, we're the whites, we're the blacks, we're the Jews, we're the then I think what America is starts to come apart, and it turns into kind of like a bit of a politicized race war.
Nick, that's literally what you want to do. That's literally what
it's going to be
Nick
a
wants to
race
do.
war.
It's so dumb.
Hey.
First off, there's a huge misconception here. This is just so dumb, and there's a misconception that arises from not understanding how Jews are, how Jews function, how Jews work. It also arises from the conspiracy theories that he pushes all the time. We just listened yesterday to Dennis Prager, for example, who was very, very nicely making this clear for people. But the idea that Jews are, they just really overstated it here as well. PBD also kind of overstated it. The idea that Jews are so, so looking out for each other and supporting each other in everything and all that, it's just, it's nonsense. Yes, there are some Jewish communities. Yes, there are some Jews who look out for each other. Yes, there were some businesses like Hollywood, for example, where Jews happened to hire each other and so on, which, by the way, was a very unique case in terms of Hollywood. A lot of Jews found themselves going westward, and it was generally understood among them that Jews are not welcomed in regular occupations and regular businesses, especially in those countries that they came from. So when they established successful businesses in movie making, for example, it was very much understood, hey, let's just hire other Jews. We have a lot of Jewish neighbors. We have a lot of Jewish friends, a lot of Jewish family members. Let's hire them. So that's usually how it developed. This is not a very common, not a universal thing. Jews are not out there all looking out for each other. Most Jews don't care about each other. Most Jews don't know each other. The Jewish population in America is very diverse in terms of the Orthodox religious Jewish community, the modern Orthodox Jewish community, the conservative Jewish community, the secular Jewish community. These groups generally do not interact with each other very much, do not work with each other very much. And when it comes to secular Jews, those among each other also don't really work with each other very much. It's just, this is all so nonsensical. You have this much collaboration only among some people like the Mormons, for example. You don't really have this among Jews.
Yeah, no, I mean, think about this. I mean, just think, like, if you had this kind of obsession with looking at a different group and going, hey, they're working together. I mean, how many black people who work with a bunch of black people and try to support each other and try to support their community, how many people could you point to like that? A ton. If you pointed to white people who work with a bunch of other white people and so on, how many people could you point to like that? A ton. But if a Jew's doing it, then look, that Jew's working with that Jew. You see this? Oh my goodness, there's this big conspiracy here. But yeah, so AP, you went in one direction with that. IP went in a different direction. Also really important. You have Nick Fuentes in there going, and I mean, think about this. If everyone's considering themselves like part of this racial or ethnic group, then America's just divided. Uh-huh. And what's your takeaway, Nick? Therefore, we need a white Catholic nation where we all unite as white Catholics and get rid of everybody else. What?
Yeah.
Wait, so you just want to be more extreme than the Jews that you imagine?
Well,
our group, every other group has to, we just got to get rid of them.
Well, also, like, Jews don't want to assimilate. Of course they want to assimilate. They've done a very, very good job assimilating. They're just not Christian. Yeah, they should become Christian. I wish they would all become Christian, but they haven't. They assimilate far better than Muslims do. They assimilate quite well. So I don't know what he's talking about here. If they're not assimilating, it's because we're not letting them assimilate. We're trying to keep them other, and because with the recent rise of anti-Semitism, they're not gonna want to assimilate in our society. They're gonna want to do what the Italians were doing when they first came to America: stick to their own communities, keep to themselves, because they're not trusted by outsiders. Everyone hates and rejects them. The more anti-Semitic we are, Nick, the less they're going to want to assimilate. You're creating the very problem you claim is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you talking about here? It's absolutely absurd. It's absurd.
No, you're right. As far as like creating the problem that you're pretending to address. I mean, think if Nick Fuentes and Jake Shields and all these guys, they rile up a bunch of hate against Jews, which makes Jews kind of feel like, okay, we're kind of on our own against all these people who hate us. And therefore what? Therefore, we kind of need to make sure we're watching each other's backs at all time, because we got a bunch of people who can just apparently flip on us at any moment and start calling for us to be wiped out and so on. But IP, this was a while back, but me and AP were watching videos, and it was when we were going through some Douglas Murray clips, and Douglas Murray actually summed it up well. He said, when the Jews were poor, we hated them for being poor. And then when they became rich, we hated them for being rich. When they didn't integrate, we hated them for not integrating. When they integrated, then we hated them for integrating. When they had no state, we hated them for having no state. And now that they have a state, we hate them for having a state. He's pointing out that it doesn't matter what they do. Guys like Nick just hate them no matter what. And then whatever they're doing at any given moment, you hate them for that. And then they can turn around and do the exact opposite, and you'll hate them for that. It's
you know what I don't understand? I don't understand how it happens that I guess we mentioned Nick Fuentes is mentioned in the title, and that's how they flock. I don't know, but there are so many gropers in the chat that are here just like, debate Nick Fuentes. Why don't you debate him?
Okay.
Why do you only talk about him? Why don't you talk to him? And so I was wondering,
we all accept
if he sends people or something. No, but they just turn up. It might just be him. It might be just a bot farm or something. But it's just the regular response. It's like, oh, he's not obsessed with Jews. Why are you obsessed with him? You are secret Jews. Why don't you debate him? That these low IQ things, just listen a little bit. Stop being idiotic. Stop being.
I'll debate Nick on which is more of a threat, Islam or Judaism.
He won't debate anybody, and he won't. This is the funny thing, gropers, Nick fans, gropers. You come here and say, debate Nick Fuentes. He doesn't debate anybody. He does not debate anybody. What are you guys talking about? You follow a man-child who doesn't debate anybody because he knows that he will lose when he talks about certain things. I would like to debate him, for example, about the Holocaust. Will he ever do that? I guarantee you he will not do it. Never. He will never do it.